speaker is here to talk about privilege, gratitude, and what it truly means to turn things around. At 12 years old, she reached the second round for auditions for the movie Slumdog Millionaire. Her grandmother was a famous South Indian novelist who wrote books on mental health, and she is a huge Kendrick Lamar fan, which you will definitely see in the brilliance of her pacing and her pauses. She is going to tear down this house. Give it up for Anusha Kumar.
I have lived a very fortunate life. At 5 years old, I play in my 5-bedroom house, watch TV on my black leather couch, and eat dinner with my parents within the confines of our white picket fence. At 9 years old, the neighbors have to buy us groceries. In India, we stay in a single room. Outside was a 20-foot wide drainage, and as we embraced the stench, we hoped our next meal would arrive soon. I have lived a very fortunate life. At 6 years old, the diversity of my friends was less controversial and more aesthetically pleasing. The term color only applied to crayons and never human beings. That is, until my father watches from his office as a jet flows through the sky, crashes into the World Trade, and diversity divides. So at 7, I knew how to run from the cops for the first time. Rushed into my house and thought, can they kill me for being a child? Apparently, the color on my skin can resemble the color of a terrorist. I have lived a very fortunate life. My mother used adversity and built the foundations each time they fell to the ground with whatever strength she found. Loneliness didn't stop her. Death threats didn't stop her. Her struggle was easy to overcome when she overcame for a son and daughter. But at 8 years old, the recession brings stagnation. Not only in the economy, but in my father's very foundation. His mind became his worst enemy. As he entered a state of denial he never tried escaping. I have lived a very fortunate life. At 9 years old, our basic necessity was a car. But then I am 14 and the electricity shuts down every night. They say only in the dark can you understand the stars, but all I understand is stress as I study for these exams by candlelight. And then I'm 15 and they turned off the pipes for a bit. So we stored up as much water in 2 buckets. I thought twice before washing my hands. Is that use of water really worth it? Maybe you don't understand why my life has been all that fortunate. Neither did I. After my dad was diagnosed with depression and paranoia, I went from being a well-off girl to one struggling to find food and shelter, exposed to mental illness, confused about where she belonged, and learned how to make herself look uglier so she didn't receive the catcalls that polluted the air, all at the age of 9. And for the longest time, I was bitter. At my dad for letting this happen, at America for forcing me to flee back to a country I knew nothing about, at India for being that country, at everyone who asked me, where is your dad? So I learned to lie at a young age. Where's your dad? He's on a trip, should be back any time now. You're so quiet, why do you never talk? I guess I'm shy. The first 4 years in India, I didn't say a single word to anyone, so I forgot the sound of my own voice. I realized I had to work 3 times as hard just to keep up with everyone else in class, so I didn't. I failed exams. I hated everything and wished every day that I could be someone else. And this bitterness, this anger lasted until for the 7th time, my mom came back from a parent-teacher meeting, and the look of disappointment on her face was different than the previous ones. This time, it was an unspoken sadness that implied, I did this for us, but I'm scared it won't be worth it. And that was when I tried to understand what it was like to be my mother. To be a single woman in a country overpowered by males, to take both her kids in the middle of the night and catch a plane to what she hoped was a better life, no matter the number of times she decided she couldn't do this anymore and thought to take her own life, she kept going. So I tried. I studied, I talked, I danced, I thrived. I taught students in the same exams I failed in. I thrived out of being so grateful to the people and situations that participated in my struggle because they were the very same ones that were helping me survive it. It was through learning the problems of the rich, the white, the healthy, the functional, the strong, and the poor, the minority, the mentally ill, the sick, and the weak that I know now all battles, all pain is valid. There is a beauty to the heartbreak, success, failure, and trauma. And the beauty is that each time we gain wisdom. So let me ask you, what do you find privilege in? Because it is there, maybe not as obvious, but a deeper privilege that exists because you have knowledge from a story that is uniquely your own. I woke up in India one day. I pet my favorite street dog. I looked up at the palm trees and realized how much I would have never known if I was not right here, right now, in this very moment. The moon sees the earth differently than the sun, and every star has its own point of view. So what we find privilege in is sometimes very subjective. My privilege has been that I've gotten to go around collecting all these perspectives. For the first time at 17, I saw my father again, and I thanked him for giving me the privilege of seeing both sides of the coin and the power of empathy that eventually became my drive, and I thanked him for letting me transform from a girl who wished with all her heart she could be someone else to one that learned to love her own story and finally herself. I have lived a very fortunate life.